Alright, so today we're back in my 95 M3, and today I'm just going to share with you guys my thoughts on daily driving my E36 M3, and sort of a part 2 to the video posted on my main channel about why I think the E36 platform is the best kind of chassis to have under 25 grand. Now before I continue yapping, I'm going to give you guys a little warm start here because I've already been driving the car a little bit. So the door's open, so maybe you can hear the exhaust a little bit better. It's very tame. It's a Corsa catback system. The rest of the exhaust is stock. So it's a little raspy between 2 and 3 grand. But let's go for a little drive, shall we? So I'm gonna break this down, kind of just pros and cons of daily driving my M3, but it's very straightforward. This is probably gonna be a pretty short video. Mostly just doing a little driving so you guys can get some more kind of POV. I wanna make sure the camera could see the shift knob situation today, but I feel like I might be a little out of frame, but that doesn't matter so much. As long as you can see the steering wheel and the shift knob, let me know what you guys think. Maybe if I should try to put the tripod behind me or something next time, I can do that as well. So, first and foremost, the biggest pro of the E36 M3 platform is that it is so fun to drive on the street. And I'm talking about you can actually use the power on a road. There's a bug in here. Like while driving it around town, right? If you're in something much more powerful, or even just my 03 Terminator Cobra that I had before this, it didn't make that much crazy power or anything, but I couldn't use it on the street. Like in third gear, I would spin without, running like a drag pack or something like that on the street. The point being, I could really ring it out through every single gear in the M3, and I really appreciate that about it because it allows me to have fun driving this thing around. Even if I'm not necessarily on a track or something like that, right? So. And see, doing that, I won't catch a felony because we were only doing like 45 miles an hour, okay? If we were in a C7 Z06, then it'd be a different story. Second gear goes to like 100 miles an hour or something, right? So, I mean, this is the whole thing about it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is a fast car slow. Not that this is by any means like a slow car, although compared to the cars today, it is certainly a slow car. This is now 30 years old. It's crazy to think about. It's a 1995 BMW M3. And simply put, the cars today are just so fast. It's hard to compare that. So I realize the lighting is probably terrible. You guys can barely see me because of the camera setup, and I don't know how these car YouTubers do the camera setups when they film during the day because, I mean, when the sun's out, it's hard to see anything. But I've never been on this road, so I certainly hope there's no cops. This Volkswagen behind this Jetta was riding me. We will not have that, okay? Had to get into it a little bit for him. But, what were we talking about? Yeah. It's fun to drive on the street, puts a smile on my face. What more can you ask for, you know? I mean, you should really just, when you're thinking about getting a fun car, when you know it fits the bill, it's because it's fun for you to drive. It doesn't matter what other people think or what it does for other people or their opinions of it. But then I'll get into that later too, because it seems other people have seem to love this car as well. Just really usable power on the street, and it is actually fun to drive on everyday roads. It's actually kind of a fun road I've never been on. I have to come down here again. Now, of course, this is not a stock M3. You know, it's basic bolt-on stuff that everybody kind of has done. Oh, you know, I just realized this does not take me where I was trying to go, so I'm gonna have to turn around. But turn around here. The car's running ST coilovers, so of course they're adjustable and they give a little bit of a stiffer ride than the stock suspension that comes in the M3, but not a whole lot different. And it's very tame. You know, I can still drive it on the street with no issues going over speed bumps. I just have to go pretty slow. I mean, it's lowered a decent bit. So, yeah, the main thing, the biggest pro of having this car is that it's fun to drive on the street, okay? Got that out of the way. The number two thing I would say is that it's actually very comfortable, okay? I think maybe contrary to what a lot of people might say, or if you compare this to a G80 M3, like, we're not comparing to cars today, okay? For what it's worth, for having a fun car that you can really just rip around in, I think the seats are great. I mean, the MTech steering wheel with the reupholstered situation going on here, like, I thoroughly enjoy that. And visibility is very good, I have to say. When you're driving around some of the cars now, like the newer cars these days, there's huge blind spots in the rear, the quarter panel and all this stuff, right? But not the case with this. I mean, I can see all the way around, you know, large windows, good visibility, which is a good thing driving on the street. And so many people back here. Comfort-wise, I will also say that there's a decent amount of space for this being a car from the 90s, okay? There's a very usable trunk space. I can fit a Costco pack of paper towels and toilet paper with the rear reinforcement bar that I have. What the heck is it called? Not reinforcement. It's basically a chassis brace. Not chassis brace. Strut tower brace? I can't think of the term right now. But the bar that I have going across the two rear strut towers, which is a common problem that you'll get, you know, shock tower kind of rust, and it'll go bad if you have, you know, aftermarket suspension you're running. Anyway, that's not what this is about. Yeah, you can fit a lot of stuff in the trunk. There is no frunk because there's an engine up there. But, you know, rear seats, I wouldn't recommend anybody sit back there unless you got like small kids or something. But they should probably have a family car for that, like a Kia Carnival. You know, maybe soon I'll get a Kia Carnival and give you guys a review of that. What am I talking about? So, comfort-wise, I think it's great. I enjoy having the pretty good bolstering on the seats, and really just the ride is pretty smooth. Even on polyurethane bushings, which I'm running, which is surprising to me. Get into it a little bit for you guys here. So another good thing I'll say about driving this on the street, or that I enjoy about daily driving this, is that this is a pretty compact car, unlike the cars nowadays that everything feels like an SUV. It is very easy to park this thing, regardless of the fact that it's manual transmission. You just have to know how to drive manual, obviously, if you're going to have one of these. But it's very easy to tell where the body lines are and to not run into stuff, okay? If you have a big truck or something like that, and you're dealing with running into things, which you probably just shouldn't drive a truck at that point, honestly. You know, it's not a problem that I have driving this around. I think it's very manageable in terms of the size, and it easily fits. easily fits in parking spots, and even when there's lanes of traffic where it's not very wide, it's easy to fit. So I think that's kind of important, daily driving. If you're for whatever reason daily driving a 3500 or anything bigger than a half-ton truck, there's going to be problems where you can't fit it in parking spaces, or where you can't see things, and it's just, obviously I have my Ram 1500 as my daily driver that I drive at times, of course, but I've been trying to put more miles in this thing just because it's my fun car, and what fun am I having just driving my daily, so yeah, the size of it I think is a good thing. The next one here, so I'll just mention briefly that for whatever reason, people seem to love the 90s again, and the 90s era kind of cars and style. But it could be a pro and a con, depending on how you see it. But this car seems to get a lot of attention, even though it's a very simple, like Cosmos Black E36 M3. Now, of course, not everybody on the road has an E36 M3, or especially a car from the 90s, so obviously it's going to stand out a little bit. But driving this around, even compared to my 03 Cobra, I'm trying to think what other fun cars I've had. All my cars have been black since, I don't know, since 6 or 7 years ago. I just prefer black cars. They look better, especially when they're clean, but I wash my cars every day, so they're always going to be clean. It's not a problem. And yeah, but somehow this gets the most attention out of all the cars that I've had. Probably the 25 or 26 cars that I've had over my lifetime. Maybe because the times and the cycle that it goes through, that all of a sudden the cars in the late 90s, early 2000s are kind of in style or whatever, but get a lot of thumbs up, which is cool. If that's something you care about, then that's something to just be aware of. Or if it's something you don't want, then maybe don't consider an E36 platform, because for whatever reason, it does get a lot of attention, and that can be seen as both a good and a bad thing. So I need to figure out where I'm going here. I'll go this way. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many pros about daily driving this thing, but I think the big ones, including the fact that it's also pretty reliable, it's just this car is not giving me problems like some of my other BMWs that are turbocharged and have N54, or, the newer stuff. Like, honestly, this is a very simple block to work on, and if you've had an E36 before, it's very easy to find parts in aftermarket. Support for it is very good, but the biggest pros, it's fun to drive in the street. You can use all the power. It's comfortable, to me at least. That's my opinion of it. Like, seats are comfortable. There's plenty of space for stuff. And with it being not too big of a car, it's just very easy to manage driving it, parking it anywhere. And I think in a daily driver, that should be pretty important. Not having the biggest truck possible that you can possibly drive and just take up all the space in the road. Which every car these days is massive for some reason. Trying to not drive too obnoxiously, like in the neighborhood, Gotta have some respect, all right? If I was on the freeway, I'd be ripping it, but it's different, right? So, yeah, things to be aware of in terms of like cons that I would consider. There really are very few, honestly. If any, really. I love this car, okay, if you can't tell already. Like, E36 M3, this is probably my favorite car that I've had. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a better experience generally that I've had. Some third there. Driving so slow, I thought I was in 5th gear. Yeah, the only con, really, is that now that this platform is 30 years old, like literally it is 30 years old this year, there are some things that are better in newer cars, especially safety features and things like that. With it being 30 years old, and we talked about like kind of the size of the car. yeah, so the size of the car. I mean, something that you don't get in this is the best safety features that are now available 30 years later, right? So it's much safer to have a car that's like a modern car that was produced in the last, couple of years, right? So that's obviously a con of having this platform, the E36 M30. Something else that I would say, just because it is like an older car and it's a little bit smaller, sometimes other drivers don't see you on the road for whatever reason. And so people constantly like lane change into me, and I have to slam on the brakes, or just something where, because it's a smaller car, people don't see you, and that could be a problem, right? So if that's something that you care about in daily driving, like a fun car, then keep that in mind. But to me, not a huge deal. You really have to actually be a defensive driver. Make sure you're paying attention when you're driving around. It's quite bright. You guys can probably barely see anything now. I honestly don't know how other YouTubers do it. Like, this is... So yeah, I mean, cons, there's really not many. So I'm not gonna beat a dead horse about the safety features and all that. You know what you're getting into with a 30-year-old car. But all things considered, this is the most fun car that I've owned, probably full stop. And I really don't have to worry about it. Like, if something breaks, I can afford to fix it, or I can just afford to buy another car. Like, I can afford to buy another E36 M3 because it's not like this thing that costs so much money that I'm gonna be car poor or something. And so I like that about it as well. But yeah, fun to drive, comfortable, pretty good size on the street, and really, like, what's not to like? Everybody's driving real slow because now there's traffic. But yeah, I would say that's pretty much all there is to it in terms of the daily driving aspects. I'm sure there's things that I've left out in terms of, things that I've experienced while having this M3 or any E36 that I've had in the past. But I love it, There's really nothing bad I have to say about this car. And if I go and sell this thing, then of course I'm going to regret it. I'm going to watch this video again to remind myself not to sell it. But that's pretty much it for this one. I think this G8330 wants to race, and I'm not going to race because I'm going to lose. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next one.